crispy.
Alright, y'all, and welcome back to another episode of Figures in Action. And today I bring to you my second ever Evil Dead 2 interior front room cabin diorama. So here I just have it with some lights, just to kind of give it that mood. Threw an old sofa that I had kind of beat up and dirtied up some time ago, and just threw the Mesco Daredevil on there, just kind of like he just got through a fight, found this abandoned spot, took a quick nap. So yeah, man, so let's talk about this piece, which I had a great time doing, and also I had that little bit of a light, this little light kind of fused by some paper, some vellum paper there, to kind of give him that over the top kind of look. All right, cool. Let's take Daredevil out with the sofa and let's look at this dial. Let me turn this other light on so that we get a little more. Sorry guys, I should have. Well, I couldn't really be more prepared just because I wanted to kind of get the shot of it, or start recording with Daredevil there, kind of in that mood. But all right, so here we go. Was contacted, or not even, I wasn't even contacted. Somebody, every once in a while, my making these dials is a very interesting thing. So every once in a while, for the most part, people end up hitting me up. You know, for the most part, people will see my work on YouTube, Instagram. Hey, do you do commissions? I'm like, yeah, I do commissions, and then we go from there. Once in a while, somebody will put on the dial structure group on Facebook, somebody will put like a call to artists type of deal, where they'll be like, hey, listen, who can create this type of dial? This was one of those cases. Somebody asked who can create an Evil Dead 2 dial, and despite the fact that I have like 2 other dials that I'm working on, I said at the time 3. I said, you know what? I would love to try this dial again. I did it 3 years ago, and I definitely, looking back at that one, definitely felt like I could improve, and also had the opportunity to work on the curtains for this one, where for the first one, that client already had the curtains or was going to create the curtains or what have you. So let's break this down real quick. Installation foam board, as always, for the most part, across the board. What I did here is what I did in the first one. I just kind of carved out what they are. They're wood. So in the cabin, they're actual just pieces of skinny plywood, I guess. And so I've seen other dials where people have used wood and it looks great. It's just a lot of work, and it's a lot of work, which would mean that the person would have to pay for it, the client would have to pay for it, and I'd charge a little more just because, again, it would just be a lot of work you'd put into this size type of dial, this 1/12 scale dial. It actually made a little bit bigger because it's going to be for NECA, the ash figure, which is usually more like 7 inches versus the normal 6 inches. So one of the things I wasn't too happy about, not that I wasn't happy, but one of the things that I wanted to improve upon was the fireplace in the first one. So the first one, basically what I did is I just cut out, so the foam is 1 inch. So I cut the foam out. And then I just designed or kind of carved in some flat kind of rocks. And so it looked okay for the time. It looked fine. There was no problem with it. But it just didn't make sense. I didn't really notice that at the time. But a fireplace that is only, again, 1/12 scale, it would have been 1 foot in. You'll never see a fireplace where it's not deep. It has to be, have some sort of depth. It can't just be a foot in, because then the whole house will burn. So that was unrealistic. So I wanted to come back and make sure that I did it a little differently. I'll put some pictures. At the end of this video of the process I went through making these. But these are actually just kind of hobby rocks, all individuals. And they're all glued in, and it's just kind of a piece that kind of sticks out from it. So I'll show you guys that video, and then on Instagram, I'm pretty sure, and on the Facebook Structure group on Facebook, I've already put a pictures of how kind of I did this, and did this a little bit differently. Where for the first dial, I just kind of put this piece of wood and I glued it here. And then this mantelpiece was just this piece that you stabbed into it. This is actually built from scratch, and it has a little more depth, and it's permanently in there. So I'm glad that I was able to, and by coming out this way a little bit, and by going in deeper, I have a more realistic looking fireplace. Very happy how that came out. First time around, what I did is I used for a lot of the wood that's kind of blocking the doors and the windows, or you know, making that barrier so people, I guess, the demons don't come from the outside in. What I used for the most part was foam, like pieces of foam, and I would just carve out the wood. And this time I went wood across the board, and it's definitely a better look. Created the curtain and curtain rods. Last time I used just foam. This time I actually went with wood all the way across. So these curtains are just folded over and glue gunned pretty much. Most of them should still, I mean, some of them you'll struggle with it, but you should be able to move them. I made it so that you can kind of open them and close them a little bit more. There's a lot of these little strings that are coming out of the fabric. I'm going to actually take a lighter or something kind of hot to just melt some of those little strings that are sticking out. I've cut a few off, but I want to make sure I send it as clean as possible. With the movie, you know, at one point his hand, he has to chop off his hand because his hand is possessed, and then the hand runs into the wall at some point, so he's trying to shoot it. So as he's shooting, he's you know, making these holes that eventually it bleeds. The walls start to bleed, and they spit out some blood. It's kind of a wild movie. It's an old movie, and it's kind of cheesy today, but it was cool in its day, and it has a cult following. It's definitely a lot of people enjoy that movie. He wanted to make sure he had enough space because there is a sofa here in the movie. There's a little table there. There's some signage. There's a deer head. He has most of that. I do have to cut out a space for a mirror that he's going to put there. In the movie, one of the characters goes through the mirror, so he wants that space. So I have to cut that space out before I send it. But I wanted to make sure I did the video without that being cut out. You know, same deal across the board. Wood. You can't see it that much, but like deep back there is a framing of the window. And I wanted to make sure that that was in place. Although, again, it's going to come out in some pictures and it's not going to come out in others, and that's cool. But if you can kind of see it, it's back there. So it's kind of that T that you see mostly on windows. All the curtains are pretty much glue gunned down so that they're kind of open, but they kind of have that feel where the wind is kind of coming into the room. And for the trap door, it's a working trap door. It doesn't close. It doesn't close all the way. I could have made it to close, but basically in the movie there's a demon that's trying to get out. So this is an actual little miniature lock, not an actual lock, but it's actually connected. So like if you can take this off. It's just glue gun, so you can just kind of take some pliers and take it apart pretty easy, and the whole contraption will come out and it'll open wide. There is a way if you wanted to kind of adjust it and push it in where you could close it, but the way it's set up with two pieces of plastic on the inside connected to each other, and then I added those little pieces of styrene and made it look like a really cool, like a rusty kind of the hinges. And I thought that came out pretty awesome. And all that is again styrene paper painted in a color marker, paint marker rather, and then that little piece is just some balsa wood that again I glued on there and just painted with that same paint marker. Definitely the door, put the door handle this time. Back here, this is actually a foam door. So that is a foam door. That is wood kind of carved or what have you. So but because it's behind the real wood, it covers it up, and it definitely feels more like there's wood back there. And I was happy with how that door came out. The borders are all basswood. I wanted to make sure I had a skinny enough one. I think with these you want to make sure that you don't get that wood that's a little thicker, because it is so weird. For the most part, you won't go into a house or a cabin where the baseboard here is kind of sticking out too much. So wanted to make sure that was a portrait there. Over here, just wanted to kind of catch that kind of nasty, disgusting. And the reason I say that is because I've been in a situation where like a football or something fell into it, and I was near it, and it kind of got on my face and head years ago. I went camping. It kind of sucked, but wanted to give that look of just the ashes, just the burnt. You know, the wood being put there over years and years and years, and it's kind of cool because when you remove it, it's just a one-piece joint, so you don't have to really, is low maintenance, and then it kind of has that lip there. So definitely happy with how this one came out. You know, again, at the time of the first one, which was 3 years ago, I was ecstatic with that one, and I'm happy with this one, and I like the improvements that I made over it. This was definitely a bigger one. The other one didn't have this window or that window, and it was shorter, so this was definitely a bigger space to work with. And is there anything else that I used here that was different from any other? No, not really. I talked about the styrene in the corner there. The curtains, how I folded them using hot glue. And that's about it. I also check out the pictures coming up at the end. And any questions, comments, leave them. And I'll hit y'all back. And I'm out. Peace.